All right, thank you, everybody. This is the Town of Andover Board of Finance special meeting for Wednesday, May 7th. We're in reference to the budget year for 2025-2026. I think, as you all know, the budget failed at referendum yesterday. So as per the charter, we will continue to work on the budget as the Board of Finance. Our job is to come up with a recommended budget. The budget will be bifurcated into two pieces, which is the town budget and the AES budget per the town charter, section 803E. So that's what this meeting is all about, to further that process. So we have a very simple agenda tonight. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order. So we'll call the meeting to order. It's like 7:01 started, and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the Republic,
for which it stands,
one
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty,
liberty,
and
justice for all.
Thank you. So the first order of business is public speak. So we will go around to each member of the public as we can identify them on the Zoom meeting. And just ask again that if you have anything to add, you certainly don't need to, but if you have anything that you'd like to comment on, please feel free. Try to keep your points brief. And again, if you want to just, I guess, positively comment on what somebody else has said or agree with them, just say that instead of restating the point, just for the sake of efficiency. So, Eric, I'm just going to go ahead and go according to my screen. So I have Sarah Becker, but I'm guessing it's not Sarah there. So.
Yes, it's Eric Becker. Can you guys hear me okay?
Do you have comments or no?
Yes, I'm just making sure you guys could hear me.
Yeah,
I want to introduce myself. I'm Eric Becker. I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of Education. Kaylin Greenhouse, the Chair of the Board of Education, asked for me to speak for her tonight as she's unable to attend. Regarding the referendum, we wanted to mention that we respect the voters' thoughts. It was a very clear result, close result, but it's clear the community believes that the elementary school budget is too high. We know you have to make adjustments, and we hope you strike a balanced approach. One thing we wanted to note is we saw that Hebron's passed their elementary school budget, which had a 5% increase. We hope any changes that you make will ensure that the budget gets passed in the second go around here. And we as a board will continue to advocate for our students and our growing population. And we continue to ask for your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Okay, going around in order. Jeff McGuire, I see you next.
Hi, how's everybody? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear
you. Listen, I apologize for not making the town meeting. I was traveling. I really wish I could have made that meeting. I have a couple points for you guys that I just want to make sure that we're all good with. One is that the Board of Finance's role is to really establish the amount of money that can be spent by the community. That includes the Board of Education and the town government. So, you really can't tell the Board of Education how to spend its money. You can just tell the Board of Education how much money it has to spend. And it's the same way related to the town, the same position that the Board of Finance is in. That's the main point that I wanted to sit there and address to the board. And then some points that I just want everybody to think about as we move forward. I know the Board of Finance, or the last closed fiscal year, the Board of Education had a $400,000 underspend. That underspend was moved into the AES capital fund, which we all know is needed because there's a bathroom repair at the school that needs to get accomplished. But that goes to my financial side of my brain that sits there and says, if they were underfunded by $400,000 in that fiscal year, and we're adding another $400,000 on top of that, that's an $800,000 increase from the previous, not this current fiscal year, but the previous fiscal year. And how did we get to that number? That's an extremely large number. I'm going to go to the other part that's had me considering and thinking about what we're doing as a community. The pre-K program that was established in the community probably about 5 or 6 years ago has always been expressed would be self-funded. So that means no tax dollars would be spent on the pre-K program. So if grant funding has decreased, that would mean to me that tuition should increase. And I'm not sure that we have all of the information necessary to sit there and deal with that from a Board of Education standpoint. But it is something that I do think the Board of Finance should be sitting there looking at. And then my last thing is really that, it's really important for the town to balance its priorities, all of its fiscal priorities. The funding of AES is critical to the long-term success of the town of Andover as a community, and we need to understand that. But you also have to realize that once budgets are set, it's incredibly difficult to make them go down. And I hope that we sit there and go backwards, and we're considerate of all of the issues, but we have to be considerate of all the issues and the balancing what is important for the town as we move forward. So I know you guys have a difficult job. I hope we're all respectful in this process, because it's really important that, we understand the value of AES and the value of what the Board of Education does for our community. And I'll leave it to you guys, and hopefully we get the next budget passed. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. All right, next I have Diane Grenier.
Yes, I'd just like to say good luck to you all and Godspeed.
Thank you, Diane. Valerie Bruneau.
Thank you, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. So yes, it was very difficult yesterday. We did see 53% of the people versus 46% of the people with yeses and nos. It was pretty tight, I guess, there in terms of the yeses and the nos. And I do know that we've looked at the questions, and we do see that there are a fair number of people on both sides that think that the town budget is too high and that think that the school budget is too high. And it is a tough job you guys have. I would like to speak just for a second too. I do know that the town last year had a lot of needs, and they did receive 16% increase over the year before, which means this year, even with a 0% increase, they would be receiving 16% over the year before, 2 years ago. I do know that our audit is almost complete for the town, and yes, the town, the school did have unexpended funds from last year due to a number of factors, including changes to students in special education. I do know that the town was also grateful enough last year and the year before to have a surplus as well. Those 2 years combined were $400,000 on the town side as well, according to the audit. So thankfully, both the town has been great with spending and the school, and with all of the other reserves that have been given to both of them, the forms of grants. So both have had surpluses in the past 2 years. That's not a sign of underfunding. That's a sign of changes that occurred during the course of the year. It is not over or under funding. Things that were changed during the course of the year. As for preschool, I know that there are seats on the School Readiness Council. One includes the first selectman. If the first selectman were to attend those meetings, I wish this year we would get a better picture for everybody in the town of exactly how that funding occurs for school readiness, which will be called something else this year. But it is in fact a fact that there is not a meager amount of tuition that comes in. There's $6,000 from each family that comes in, and you will not see those salaries from preschool that are in the budget. They don't exist. They are funded separately through school readiness. So moving forward, I know you guys have a tough job, but I do think that 46% to 53% last night showed that there are a lot of people in town concerned about the budget on both sides, and that it's not just a school thing. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. Moving on, I see Scott Person.
Good, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. And Creme. Hey,
you
Jerry.
tell- It's not just Ann.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
with-
see you there. I couldn't see you,
and
so I'm just going
and
by the
truth is-
name on the screen, so.
I know, and we haven't figured out how to change it. I also have Julia Haverhill with me to help her with the technology. I just want to say I was very disappointed in the results of last evening. I was curious to know how much my taxes would have gone up had that passed. So I calculated my taxes for this year that I just finished paying. And that was $11,059.44. Then I calculated with the new mill rate, and that came out to $11,386.38. It was a matter of maybe $327 a year. I don't know that people are looking at the money and exactly how does it impact them. I really don't know that this budget is about money. When I saw that flyer in the River East on Friday, it was full of lies and falsehoods. And it was really, as far as I'm concerned, it was scandalous. There's no truth in it. And I think that the Board of Education and the town got a bad rap out of that. And I mean, the people that work for our town, whether they're teachers or in the school or they're people working on the roads, I mean, you gotta pay people today to a living wage, and you're not gonna be able to hire people if you don't have the money to hire them with. And I think that our town deserves better. And I mean, I'm willing to pay an increase of that much a year. It's not that, I don't think it's that fierce, but that's just my own opinion, and God bless you all, and I appreciate the work you do. And you can go on to the next word. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that with those questions that were along with the budget vote, do you think the budget for the town or for the school was too much, too little, or just right? I really don't know how accurate those are, how much of a representation they are of townspeople, because they don't add up to the number of votes, the number of people that came in to vote. When the questions about the town budget came up to 639 people voting, and we didn't have that many people come in to vote. So people must have voted for more than one thing, saying it was both maybe too much and just right, or something like that. So I don't think you can put a lot of stock in those answers that people did, because the numbers don't add up.
I was shocked by the flyer in the River East. I thought it was designed to be inflammatory and get people upset. I would have liked to
Oh.
have seen
Good.
documentation of who was responsible for it. And I can't believe that the school board has $1 million. I mean, anybody in their right mind is going to say, that can't possibly be right, because it stated that there was $1 million surplus in the Board of Ed coffers. But apparently, whoever wrote it didn't take into effect that are the numbers for the school board are checked regularly by a auditor, and certainly that wouldn't happen. The people who put the budget together and the people, and the majority of people on our boards and commissions, take their job seriously and do their job with good faith in the kind of government they'd like to see, and have the kind of people they know that their neighbors would like to see. So the whole thing was a bad move, I think, and it created a very sour note on the whole thing.
I just want to say that this should really be a discussion about the flyer. I get that it generates a lot of feelings. I didn't personally read it, not interested. And so, that's just me. So, but this is really about what we need to do moving forward. So I don't want to stop a public comment. It's important, but I do think we should keep focused on your input towards the budget itself.
Hey, Mark, it's Joanne, and I'm sorry to
Yep.
interrupt you. And I always appreciate your, the way you run a meeting as well. I always say that to you, but I don't mind if they touch on it a little bit if they want to. I do agree that this meeting is, we're going to be deciding on the budget or our next proposed budget. But I think if townspeople take the time, I always say this, I love when they take the time to come to a meeting. And if they have an opinion, as long as they don't go on and on.
I
think
agree,
it's
but we
okay
need to stay focused on the budget, not on a flyer or on an article.
Right, right. I mean, you did right by,
editorial.
I just want to say that I always appreciate, this is why I love to serve on a board. I don't need everybody to agree with me or whatever, but I do want to hear just a little bit. But if you feel like they're going on and on, then by all means.
Well, it's not so much that, I
Definitely.
just want to stay on topic.
Sure, got it. Thank you.
Mark,
I just wanted to give my 2 cents.
if I could say,
Yeah, Bill.
I would just like to include that I do think the flyer is on topic. Sorry to disagree with you, Mark, because I normally agree with you on everything, but I believe that this budget didn't pass because of this flyer. It is full of misinformation and lies, and it's slanderous. It is cowardly that the people who wrote this didn't even put their name. I'm sorry, but they didn't put their name on it. They said things about you, Mark. They said things about Caitlin. They said things about Valerie. All of these things are slanderous and they have no basis in this type. You want to put out facts on your opinions, okay? That's one thing. But slanderous information like this, there's no place for it. The people that put this out should be ashamed of themselves. And I believe they are ashamed because they didn't put their name on it. So that tells me they're ashamed of what they did. And this stuff has no place in this town. I can't believe this actually happened. But it did affect the outcome of this election, Mark. This piece of paper right here did. And it was wrong. And it's full of wrong information. So I'm embarrassed for that. And I'm embarrassed for the things they said about you, about Caitlin, and about Valerie. It was wrong. So anyways, people, when I think about the job that you've done for many years, Mark, not fair. When I think about Valerie, she was hired to do a job, educate our kids. She wants the best education for our kids. She's doing the best she can. And her reward for that is people slandering her name.
Okay.
It's got no place in this agenda, but I think it is important to say that this was a bad piece that affected the outcome of the budget. So,
All right. Well, let's get back to public comment if we could. So, appreciate it. So, moving along, if we would, I have a Terry Smith. Any input?
Yes, thank you, Mark. Mr. DeRosiers, thank you so much for stating what you just did. When I saw that flyer, I was so upset, and Valerie and I were very upset about it. It is totally inaccurate. The numbers were all wrong. And I don't want to dwell on it, but I just wanted to say that we were all upset about it. And it's just such a slap in the face. I hope that we can get a fair budget for both sides, for both the town and the Board of Ed. And I'll do whatever the Board of Ed and Valerie need me to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Terry. I have Marcy next.
Hi. Actually, I think it would be important for the Board of Finance to discuss the flyer because, some people are saying it's not factual and apparently the person who did it thinks that it is. And it does make a big difference. I mean, if you look at possible surplus that they already have of 900,000 and then increasing the budget, that their operating budget is 3.5 million, but they're asking for 4.5 million. I'm not sure, but I would like to know because if you add those up, it sounds like they're over budgeted by 2 million. So that's pretty significant. And so if the flyer is wrong, I'd like to know. I mean, I think that it would be important to, instead of sitting there waving your hand and saying, I think it's wrong, maybe it is right. Maybe it is wrong. It would be nice to know. And, there's also, I get concerned when I hear, parents say that seniors don't care about kids. And that's why they vote these budgets down because they don't care. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. The reason why these budgets don't pass is because there's no transparency. You know, you hear things about the preschooler parents paying $6,000 and we're paying $23,000. I mean, where's the difference? So, you know, there's a lot of, you know, hard feelings. And I think that it's important that you address all of these things factually so that we can make an informed decision. I know it's really hard and I appreciate everything that you guys do. So thank you.
Hey, Mark, can I just counterpoint that? Because I think it's important. Marcy, we always, thank you for bringing that up again. I want to hear everyone's opinion. I'm of the vein that I would never want to slander a person in order to make my point. And I'm not here to judge whoever put the flyer out. I have no idea who did, who didn't, whatever. I mean, I feel like tonight we will be discussing, at least I came ready. Everybody that knows me knows I come ready every single meeting to discuss the budget, to come out with my points, to say where I think we can cut, to think what's fair. I don't think it's our job to figure out who did this flyer. I mean, I'm sure we all have our opinions and think, you know, I mean, there's a way to go about things and a way not. I'm sure here though, ready to talk about points in the budget and how we can get better with having the true facts. But I'm with Mark on the one fact I want to hear from everybody. So thank you for your input, but I'm not here to decide what to do about that flyer that wound up in the, you know, River East. And if it got everyone's attention, it did. There's ways you can do that. You publicly speak at meetings. You make sure, whether you're voted down all the time, you make sure you stand up as the only person, even if you're on the Board of Finance, and talk about things. So that's all. I don't know if we're going to go into the flyer per se, is my,
I would say no.
I
might
would
go
think
into the
most of the
facts.
people, right. I don't think that's our job to go
Yeah.
into the flyer. I'm ready to talk about the budget for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and
Okay.
find out what's
Well,
spent,
let's-
where it can
yeah.
be. Thank you. But that needed to be addressed, Mark, because it did open up. Thank you.
Can I just say one more quick thing?
Make it quick, please.
Just, I know that people are probably afraid because I sense fear on people on the boards and also people in town. And I know myself, whenever I say something, I feel like I get backlash. So anyway, that could be why the person, whoever, or people didn't, you know, claim who they were. That's all.
Okay. All right. I have Elaine Burchard or Bouchard.
Yeah. Hi.
Anyway.
Yeah, not to harp on it, but I was going to say, I believe that the vote failed. It was a resounding no because of that flyer, just as Bill mentioned. You know, these facts and figures were just thrown out there. And the issue, the big issue is that people don't know if it's right or wrong. And unfortunately, people don't take the time to follow all the budgets and go to the Board of Ed meetings and understand what that's all about. And they don't take the time to ask questions of stuff that they don't understand. But when somebody goes ahead and a yellow flyer goes ahead and puts out to people who really don't have any information at all to base their opinion, except for, you know, the taxes are going up a little bit, to all of a sudden have that put in their face, then it's just going to make them mad. And they're going to say, well, hell no, that doesn't look right. That's bad. But if that's the first time that they're seeing any information about this, whether it be correct or incorrect, without any background or ability to ask questions 4 days before the referendum, that's not good. So I do know what appears here is people need to, in our town meetings, really get down to the tedious explanation of things, because that's what people all of a sudden need to know. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Elaine. Scott Soyat, I'll go to you. It looked like you popped in the middle there. So.
Hi. I think I want to say that I'm hoping the board doesn't make drastic changes to the budget based on what, as everyone is pointing out, is probably a lot of false information. The vote was probably, we don't know for sure, but probably affected by a serious amount of misinformation. So I'm hoping the board takes a very measured response and doesn't do drastic cuts because the first vote failed. I think first vote failed because of this flyer that came out with no time for response or corrections. That's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Scott. Running through. Looks like Leanne Hutchison, you're the next on the screen.
I am all set, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Leanne. Linda Derrick. Linda, have any comment? You're muted, so. I'll swing back and see if we get you back. Okay, now I have 4 phone numbers. I'm going to read out the last 4 numbers. If it's you, try to unmute yourself and you can add any comment that you have. The first one I have is the number ending in, well, I guess I'll read the 7 digits. It's 989-6988. Okay, you're still on mute, so I'm going to move on to the next number, 742-5475. It looks like you're unmuted, so you can speak if you have any comment.
This is Leanne Hutchinson. No, I still don't, but thank you for reading off the number.
Okay, thanks. Next number on the board is 680-4212.
Hi, Mark, and the Board of Finance. This is Shannon Loudon.
Hey, Shannon.
I just have a couple quick things to say. Good evening. I don't envy your position. I echo what Scott Soyette said. I hope you do take a measured approach. I've lived in this town for more than 20 years, and I absolutely acknowledge that we needed to invest in the infrastructure in this town because it had been woefully underfunded for many, many years. So I appreciate that the town voted to give the town an increase of 16% last year. We now need to invest in our school because we've had a significant increase in our student population. We are not over budgeted. As Valerie pointed out, things happen during the school year that enable us to save money. I don't think we should be punished for having a surplus. We have 3 very large capital projects for which we don't have the money, and we have capital projects for which we don't have a fund until it was finally funded with our surplus and with money from the town that the Board of Finance generously created a fund for us, which has been really necessary. The final thing I want to say, it was kind of already said by Elaine. I am so frustrated, and I've said this for the past 10 years, that people at the very last minute who have never participated in the budget process come into the budget process with misinformation and then also accuse people who have created the budget of not being transparent, of not being honest. It's just so frustrating. We offered 2 townwide meetings for people to be informed about the Board of Education budget this year. One was not attended by anyone whatsoever. The Board of Education sat in the gym by ourselves. Excuse me, Melissa Leteska came, one of our teachers. And the other was a workshop that wasn't intended by anybody online either. That is just not what should be happening in a democracy if people want to then criticize or vote down a budget. And the final thing I'll say is I thought it was indicative at the town meeting on the budget that only 3 people out of the more than 100 were there voted against the budget or would have voted against it to move it forward to referendum. And then with the results yesterday, I just find that very skewed and don't really understand what happened. So again, as I started off with, I think that portends to suggest to the Board of Finance a very measured approach in reducing the budgets, both for the town and for the Board of Education. Good luck tonight. Thanks very much.
Mark, were you talking? Because you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, Joanne.
No
Yeah, the
problem.
next number I have is 977-5800. If you want to unmute yourself, you can make any public comment.
Hi, Sharon St. Rock, and I was lucky to follow Shannon, and she clearly stated everything I was feeling. So thank you. I was fortunate to follow her. So nothing further to comment at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, someone's hands up.
Yep, I
Someone's
see
hand
that. I think it's somebody who didn't get to comment. So we have 989-6988. You have to unmute yourself. We can't unmute you. We're not hearing anything. I'm going to go back to Linda Derrick. Linda, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to, if you have any comment, or you can unmute yourself.
We'll leave them outside, okay? Everyone else, right?
Okay. Well, I think, unfortunately, we're going to have to call the end to the public comment. Hopefully folks didn't want to comment that were muted and couldn't unmute yourself, but we do need to move on. So we'll go ahead and open the budget discussion. So all of you, the public, you're welcome to stay. Please put yourself on mute just so we avoid any background noise.
Oh, sorry.
So
Hey, Mark?
we now move on to the budget workshop.
Mark?
Yep, Bill?
I'll say, I know it's not Sarah Becker, but if you're not speaking, if you could turn the video off, it slows down the overall, and I get a lot of pixelation. Thank you, Mr. Becker. If you're not talking, if you're not on the board, it'd be great if you just turn your video off. It helps the overall speed.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So for the Board of Finance, I would suggest we proceed. We obviously have a bifurcated budget. So we have the town budget and we have the school budget. The school budget is a single line item. We're not going to address any particular, we obviously cannot change any line items within the school budget, but it's a single line item. And obviously, I think it's the most contentious part of this overall budget. So I would propose that we tackle the town budget first. We have some corrections to make there. I'm thinking this will probably be a little more straightforward, but I'm willing to entertain other suggestions from the board.
Mark, we really should just be able to freely speak. I feel like you sometimes direct us, and this is a really important meeting, and I so appreciate everything you do, but I'm feeling very directed, and then I get anxious that I'm not going to be able, just speaking from the heart, you know. Yes, so thank you for addressing. I don't want to jump on your thought. You know, I think we all should have a moment. We're all on, you know, if, you know, going around whenever you say, but thank you. That was the main thing. I know that I spoke at the town meeting and brought up a series of corrections and mistakes that I found. So before we do anything, you know, not trying to take away from everybody else, I'm hoping we can do that. So my one motion would be if I, you know, in order to keep things flowing along, you know, don't know how everyone else feels, but I feel confident. Everybody's been copied on the emails. It was found that there was a really big error in the health insurance estimations. We've all been copied on the emails. So I feel confident, especially since there's less employees that will be covered now. And I'm not even for now. And I'm not even taking that into consideration, but I'd like to make a motion to reduce the health insurance benefit line. I'm sorry that I don't have it in front of me.
Will you look at the detail, Joanne? Do you want me to share the?
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully my eyesight, I might have to shut off and look real close. But the one that I brought up at the town meeting. There you go, Rob. That's what I'm going to be doing.
That's what I look like an idiot when I do it, but yeah.
Well, I'll shut off and I'll have my little magnifying glass in front of me and I can read it off. I also have a copy. But I know which motion I'd like to make for that because we've all been told it was overfunded.
Yeah,
and
it's
we
a very,
couldn't do
it's a
anything
very
about
specific
it.
amount. I made the corrections in the spreadsheet
Oh.
earlier, so we can take a look at it and we can make a very specific change.
Oh, I was gonna motion it just like 1,000 more than, but if you have the specific, I'll look at that. Like I was saying while we're getting it, unfortunately, or I don't even
Okay,
want.
so this is the healthcare and MRF
Okay,
tab.
go ahead.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you're seeing that. So I'll zoom in a little bit. So the issue, this is the corrected version, by the way. So the issue, just for background, is that these numbers here about the health insurance cost for singles, families, and two people were incorrect originally in the spreadsheet that we were working with earlier, and the dental cost was also incorrect.
There was a lot of incorrections, Mark. There was a lot wrong. I could have dug and dug and dug, but just for the public to know. Thank you.
Okay, well, these are the amounts that I believe, if I understand the issue, these are the amounts that were stated, and they should have been populating the table up here.
Correct.
Okay. When you look at the original calculation, it was at 239,954. Roughly, it was this corrected calculation is an amount of 210,577. So there's a difference of 29,376. So that lines up more or less with what the treasurer had said. If we had made the corrections, that would have been the correction. So if we go over to the main budget, yeah.
Mark, thank you for doing all of that. If everybody just remembers, for the sake of saying it, that night I made a motion, I had come up with a fast math figure of 29,000 about incorrect, which is almost spot on.
Yeah.
And then I made a motion for 25,000, but I don't know. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I would say we know what the number should be. It should be this 210,577. So we could just go ahead and use that.
Okay. Is the number that's included in there the former? I don't mean, and I don't want to talk about anything negative, but the other number might have included the healthcare cost for the former senior center director. I mean, we can keep a number in there. I'm not going to go that tight.
Yeah,
I was going to make a motion.
That's not
We
going to
still have to
filled.
replace that position, Joanne, so I don't think we want to go that deep.
Sure.
Probably not going to change.
My only motion was going to be 30,000. I'm fine with making an exact motion. Sorry, thanks, of course, right? So do you want to go back to that other page, Mark, while I see the amount?
Yeah. So I think what you want to do is make a motion to change the specific line item to a specific dollar amount.
Absolutely. Oh, understood. I just needed the 29,370. Oh, you mean you want the total? You just want the total.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about differences here. I think probably what you want to do is make a motion that, this line item, 141, 215, 52, 100, the health and dental insurance be set at this level, 210,577.
577.44.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we set the health and dental insurance line, the 141, 215, 52, 100 to, is that 210, 577, 44, 44 cents?
Yep.
Yep.
Correct.
I mean, I can see it. I just didn't know. Yep.
That's the right one. Yep. I second.
Okay, Rob seconds. Do we have any discussion?
Good work, Joanne, on finding that. That's
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you were certainly
before the meeting.
Right. It was totally frenetic, but it is impressive. You were within $500 of what the answer was. I just wish we had. It was just really unfortunate timing, and everyone was like, "What is going on?" And it was just.
I know that.
I'm glad, in a sense,
yeah.
The blessing in disguise here is we can fix it.
Yeah, that's all I
We
feel
take
good
this
about.
thing back to referendum.
The one thing I wanted to say, which was, it doesn't matter now, we're going to get to this end result, but there had been a correction because we knew it went from the 8% to the 7%. So this was really looked at. Remember, there was emails when we knew it went from 8% to 7%. But listen, we're fixing it now.
We're
so I'll
fixing it.
shut.
Let's
We
just
got a
move
big
on.
night.
We
Yep,
don't have to
yep.
go backwards and
Well, told
rehash
you I
history.
came ready. I don't take it lightly. No, but you're right.
Further discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. The line item is now set where that was. Okay, do we have any other action on the town budget?
Mark, I don't know. This is on a.
I
sorry.
do.
Oh, go ahead.
Hold on.
Can I talk now, Mark?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Okay, thank you. I'd like for us to talk about Christine Hercules' salary, the $5,000 cut that we made. Is that an option to discuss tonight? Possibly.
Every line item is an option here.
Okay.
And this is just a fund the line item, so.
I've had some time to think about that, and I have some concerns about that cut. I think that, keeping really good staff in place is important. It's expensive to go out and search for a new person, get them on board, train them. So I would appreciate the Board of Finance looking into that and possibly restoring that $5,000. I'm not sure the process.
All you should do is make a motion, Kimberly.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we restore the $5,000 back to Christine Hercules.
I second it. That was going to be one of my motions. We talked about it in executive session, if you remember.
Okay, so what I would say is what we need to do is identify the line item in the budget and set the amount that we want.
Okay, it's so tiny for me, even with glasses on. So I'm not sure.
So the
but
treasurer's salary,
correct.
Assistant, right? It's right there, Mark. Assistant,
Yep.
109, 101.
Stipend, right?
Perfect.
It was the
Thank
stipend
you.
amount.
Yes.
So you want to make a motion to put $5,000
Put
in
the
that? line?
$5,000 back. Yes.
Okay, so that, if I'll read that back to you and let me know if this is okay. So this is line item 109, 101, 51000, the assistant treasurer stipend. So you're proposing to increase that to $5,000.
Correct. That's exactly what I'm proposing.
I think.
Okay, do we have a second?
Rob seconded it, I think, or no, I'm sorry,
No,
Joanne
I-
seconded it.
I didn't, but I was
Joanne?
gonna.
Yeah, I did second it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a second. Do we have further discussion?
I would like to, since it was made a motion, I thought this was something that was discussed in executive session, with all of the thoughts coming out about, the way we had motion, we can say to the public now, the reason we took it off the first time was the way it was listed on the spreadsheet was inaccurate because this person was a union person. So I'm all for putting it back in as long as we don't have that same language on the spreadsheet, which goes against union principles. And clearly there was going to be an MOU written because this person does do additional work, is learning to be a treasurer and all of those things. So I support Kim in this. It just needed to be done the correct way.
And I'd like to also add, though, to that I think that we've had really good conversations with the selectmen about the decisions that they make. And I think moving forward, I'd like to keep that conversation going with them. It's important that we talk with them about things and how they make decisions and why things are the way they are. It's really important to me to continue those conversations with them.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. I'll go ahead and add that right in here. That
Thank
is
you,
a
Mark.
direct add. That's not a formula, so 5,000, so. Okay, thank you. Further motions on the line items in the budget.
Mark, I wanted to bring up adding revenue back in. I know that there was a decrease with the ECS funding of that $89,000 that was taken away. I haven't seen the revised spreadsheet that you have tonight was it just updated and put back in
The only change here is that I updated the healthcare and dental.
Okay, great.
So,
Good,
and I
'cause
didn't
I just
distribute
didn't
it.
want
I
to
did
miss
it
an
literally
email.
15,
Yeah.
20 minutes before the meeting.
No,
So,
perfect. No, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss something that
yeah,
went to
no,
the
there
board.
wasn't anything distributed.
Okay, so I didn't want to, so I know that we had reduced, this will help the overall budget as well. If we now know that I thought it was 89,000,
It was
right?
89,000.
Yep, we can put that back in if we're
Yeah.
receiving it, and that'll.
Eric, can you confirm that? Yeah, just, I think it makes sense to have Eric.
Yeah, of course.
Sure, so, can I absolutely, sorry, my mic is hiding. I can't absolutely guarantee it's going back in the budget.
We only want guarantees, Eric.
Right, it seems probable because the legislature overall seems to support it. The governor is kind of opposed to it, but more than likely it will be restored, but no guarantees. So if I were a betting man, I would bet that it get restored.
Yeah, it does sound like it's going to go back, but it could be June before we know.
So you're proposing that we would go to the, basically back to the budgeted amount of 2 million.
I had thought that Eric spoke to this at our last Board of Finance meeting and that it was coming back to us. That was my.
It's either that or the budget meeting, yeah. town meeting.
Yeah, one of our many meetings.
So are you going to make a motion to add that back in, Joanne? That
Yes,
88,000?
I would like to make a motion to add the 89,000 back into the ECS. Sorry, I need to get close.
89,040.
That's okay. Yeah, you did say
Thank you.
the ECS funds.
I'll second that. Okay.
Okay, so just to clarify then, was that you, Rob, that seconded?
No, that was Bill, I think.
It was me, Bill.
Okay, Bill, sorry. Just to clarify, what that would do is take us back to the previous year budget funding of $2,004,782.
Correct.
Okay, we have further discussion? All right, I guess I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and make that change.
Mark, could you just scroll down to the next revenue section when you're done with that too?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, does that help?
Yeah, I just wanted to look at it.
So excuse me, I'm going to save my work here.
Good job.
One other thing that I think we had to change last minute, after we'd already published the proposed budget is, I think, Eric, you got the final number for the state trooper?
That was in the
Or did we-
last budget.
It was, okay.
Yep. I mean, that's not really a final number.
Yeah, I
That's
get it.
just a year ahead best guess from the state police.
Okay, got it. Okay, so it doesn't bear changing here then. Short story.
Mark?
Yeah,
I mean, if we're at a point, I don't know if anyone else is gonna bring, I don't wanna monopolize it if
oh,
some.
go ahead. Nobody's got
Okay.
anything pending.
So, I mean, I feel like we do have to overall listen to, I truthfully don't think, I feel like the budget might not have passed regardless of the flyer. I think we've heard a lot of, so I'm just gonna say that really quick. So just from comments, I know there was letters written to the River East besides that, people that brought a lot of good points out. So I feel that I would like to try to make a couple more changes and listen to the townspeople that did vote. So that's where I'm coming from. So I would like to.
On the town side budget, Joanne, just to clarify, that's what we're on
Can
right
we
now, right?
talk a little bit more about the town side of the budget, please?
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, I'm still on the town side.
Okay, just making sure that's what we're doing. Okay.
No,
Okay,
but
now you're
a
talking
lot-
about the Board of Education budget, okay.
No, I'm so sorry. I just mean that a lot of the public and who are here tonight commented that they think the budget in general, you know, didn't pass. You know, there was a yes or a no because, and I truly feel like there was a lot of people that weren't going to pass this budget regardless. So I want to state that for the record. And everybody's allowed their opinions. I'm still going to like y'all tomorrow. Doesn't matter. You know, that's the way I operate. But so I'd like to try to take into factor what the town has spoken. So I would like to, and what we did learn in this process was that because the town attorney came on one of our meetings, and came in and let us have it. But one of the things that he did say, and that I learned, was that we are allowed, even on the town side, Mark, to make just we don't have to go specific line item. Like if I want to look at a department so that they can choose where they want a reduction. So that's where I'm coming from. He said we are allowed to do an overall reduction. So I'm going to go forward again, listening to the townspeople and make a motion. If you could go down to Public Works, please. I'm going to look closer. Okay, so the way I'm reading it in the proposed budget, the Public Works is 457,11341.
Yes.
Yep. So I'm going to just propose an overall reduction of $25,000 to the Public Works Department and let them decide where they would like that reduction.
Okay, does anybody want to second that motion? Go ahead. You have a second?
Can I ask a question, or do you want to wait?
I'm looking for a second, Rob.
Yep, I understood.
I guess we can continue discussion if we don't have a second on that motion.
Yeah, so I have a comment.
Wait a minute, there was no motion, there was no second to that motion, so there's no
There's no
discussion.
second to the
There was a
motion, so
second.
no action.
We're back into
taken.
general discussion of the budget.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Can I make a point?
Hold on, I think Liz was asking, or Robert, did you have something specific, or was it about that motion?
It was just, I couldn't remember, and I was just going to ask for clarification if anybody remembers whether we had reduced the Public Works budget at all. I know we made the cut to the road funding that I hated doing.
We cut the road improvement fund.
Yeah, I don't think we made any changes to the.
No, I proposed several changes as small as 2,500, but
Right.
you know, they didn't.
So this
go.
this
And-
is the
and-
requested budget, you know, without us having made cuts. That's it. That's all I was just for
Yeah.
my own memory.
no.
That's correct, yeah.
That's
we
all.
didn't make any.
That was it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go in order of think of people who wanted to talk. Go ahead, Kimberly.
I'd like to talk about the road budget and possibly increasing it.
So you're talking about the fund for the
road improvement?
Yes.
road improvement?
Yes. Yep.
It's right here. So the original request, or last year, I'm sorry, was at 410,000. Overall, we took 50,000 out.
Correct. Yep. So I'd like to make a motion that we restore the $50,000 to the road budget.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, Liz? Was that you, Liz?
Yes.
Yeah, that was Liz.
Okay, thanks. Okay, discussion.
May I, Mark?
Can I?
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. So, I'm with what you guys are doing there. I understand because roads are something I'm passionate about. I lived on a terrible road for a long time. And I would support something maybe midway between the 50 that we took off. Because listen, if we've made some nice gains here with what Joanne found, and but we're starting to add a lot of stuff back in, and I just don't want this to fail on the next time, as people, you know, discussed. It'd be nice if we get this budget to pass in the next time through, and if we start adding a lot of money back in. So as much as I would love to say put 50,000 back in, because I would really love to. I would like to see us do something, maybe a little bit less, restore maybe 25,000, but I know that's a separate motion, but I just wanted to make my thought clear on that.
I think that that's fair, Bill. I appreciate the conversation. You know, we need to talk about it.
Okay.
May I make a
Joanne?
comment? Oh,
I'm sorry, I just saw Joanne's name.
No,
hand
go
up.
ahead, Louise. I've spoken already. You go next.
thank
Go
you.
ahead, Louise. Okay, thank you, Joanne.
I
Raise
just
your
want
hands.
I just want to let everybody know that regarding the results of the election, the majority did state that the budget was right on. It's 360, and then too high was 229. So I think that the town does feel that the town budget is kind of where it should be. So I kind of agree with what Bill's saying. If we're going to do something, maybe do it halfway.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about the town budget, that actually 64% of the people said the town budget is too low or just right. So if you like add those numbers together, that's 64%. So
That's interesting.
I think,
Yep.
you know, somewhere in the middle there might be the way to go. And I could support either way.
I think it's a good conversation.
So Mark, if I may, now that everybody's
Yep.
speaking, it was hard for us to make some of these cuts at the beginning of the budget season, like Bill said. And I want the public out there to know that even though we're seeing this amount, these are funds. So there's already a big, like, picture of bank account. So this isn't the end all of this. This is adding to the big bank account, which will be over $1 million. So I appreciate Bill because I know how much he is in favor of roads, so it's really hard for him to do that. So I think the logic is there. You know, we're on this board to do a job, and every year we kind of have to split it around. So this was the year that we did decide to take. I think my first proposal was 100,000, which didn't go for it. You know, in trying to lower a budget for like the people that are on a fixed income, and you know, you look at the bottom line and it's only a smaller increase, but that's because of the math that's going into it and the things that are be putting against it. Whatever we decide on is what the town is marrying themselves to every year. So again, I think it's hard to put back in after you've taken out, and it was hard for us to make these choices. So of course, I mean, everyone knows I'm not going to be in favor because I looked at the big picture. There's a huge fund that they're going to be using. They actually have 2 funds that they can do road work with. And
It gets spent every year, though, I think.
It gets
right, but Jay starts it in the like this time of year when it gets warm, you know, which is great. And they do all of, you know, I'm not the expert on this, but they do all the road work they can. Then they, you know, get their funding in July, they keep going, and he has a good system going. So that's all. I don't want to bore people with my voice. There was a reason we only took away 50,000. We're not leaving them with the total that's there. There's already an amount in the big bank account that they can use. So that's my opinion.
So can we meet in the middle?
I just wanted to add one more thing to that, and you know, Joanne, you and I are on the same page, I think, here, but you know, when Scott talked about what it costs to pave, you know, like one mile of road, you know, that money that we have in the pot wouldn't even pave 1 mile of road. So there's 23, I think, miles of road in town. So again, it was a painful cut, and I kind of, again, would support something, giving some back, but not keeping it where it was, because I know these roads went to total disrepair for a long time. And I don't want them to go back to that. I want to make sure there's enough money every year to make sure the roads are maintained at the level they are now. And I believe all the roads in town are maintained right now at a good level, at a good spot. And I'd hate to see them get, you know, slide backwards again like they did for many, many years. So again, I'm kind of in the middle of maybe restoring 25,000 or something like that. So that's all I'll say.
All right, Rob, I think did you have something to add?
Yeah, just I'll try to be really brief. You all know I hated this cut when I proposed it. You know, if I had my druthers, I'd restore the full 50, but we just had a budget fail. So I'm a little wary, a little leery of, we've put some things back in. Yes, we've got some good stuff on the revenue side, and we found the 30,000 in savings, thanks to Joanne, on the healthcare spending. So if we do anything, I would also agree with, kind of a 25,000 partial restore, not the full amount. And I think there's a case to leave it, grit our teeth for 1 year. And I'm very much with you, Bill, philosophically on the roads. I completely agree with you. I think they can survive a 1 year 50K hit, but that's just a gut feel. So I'm with you guys. I'll go with what the board wants to do, but I don't think it's a great look if we just go through this budget and what we're doing is adding things.
Yeah.
After we had a budget fail, so
Yep.
That's where I'm at.
Okay.
All right, anybody else?
And I just wanted to
Everybody spoke. Yep.
say, don't forget, there was a surplus on the town side last year. We have a contingency fund. If they are doing so great in getting things done with the roads and such, and they're running out of money, I mean, there is ways to get a little bit more. That's why I thought the 50,000 was very, conservative is the word I'm looking for. So that's it.
I think everybody's spoken. Can we call for a vote, or anybody have anything else to add? Okay, just to remind you, we're voting on restoring that $50,000 so that the line item for road improvement would be back to $410,000 as for the funding of the road improvement fund. All those in favor say aye.
I am.
Okay, is that Louise? I'm sorry.
Kim.
Who
It was
said they
Kim, I
were?
believe.
Is
Oh,
Kim.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm an aye. I'll say aye.
Okay, Kim and Liz. All those opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Or nay, sorry.
Or nay, yeah.
So that looks like Rob,
Louise, you're
Bill,
muted.
I'm muted.
Yeah, I was an
No,
A.
I hear Liz. I hear you,
I
Liz.
can hear Liz.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No, Louise.
Oh,
Oh,
Louise. I'm
Louise.
sorry.
No, I said.
Oh, sorry.
Now she's not.
Okay.
Okay, so Louise, were you a yes or a no?
No,
Okay. Rob, you were a no.
Correct.
Bill, you were a no.
No, yes, correct.
Okay.
So,
And I'm a no. So that's, and who am I missing today? Joanne, you're a no?
I'm a no.
Yeah, okay. So
so
the motion fails 5-2.
I'd like to make a motion that we restore $25,000 to the road fund.
Okay, do we have a second? Louise seconds, thank you. Further discussion? I think we kind of all spoke. I mean, I'll say up front, I'm going to vote no, just because I feel like we need to pass the budget, and I'm not comfortable adding money into what we had as a failed budget. And I am a huge fan of funding the roads better than we are, but we already had the town people speak, and I'm not in favor of adding a lot of money back in, but I appreciate the sentiment. I personally would like to see it in. So. Anyone else? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 It looks like Bill, Rob, Louise, Kim, Liz, how about you?
Yep, aye.
Okay. And are those opposed?
Aye.
The motion
Hey,
passes.
I'm consistent.
No. I'm cracking up with the aye
People can
versus
at
nay
least take
thing.
my
It has
word.
nothing to
They
do with
know
your.
my word
I
is
knew
my
you were going to
word.
vote
I'm not
that way.
gonna flip
It's
flop.
just that the aye and nay thing is it was driving me crazy.
Okay,
just
so
don't
we're
wanna
gonna
see
Oh,
it.
sorry,
add.
nay. I don't know.
The correct response is nay or raise your
Nay,
hand on
please.
the no. Yeah,
I just think it's important that we see the progress move forward. So
yeah.
I agree, Kim. Thank you.
I have a
No,
right to
I don't
change my
disagree.
mind.
So, all right, thank you. I think it's a good thing. I hope we get this passed, so. Okay, thank you. Made that change. Any other adjustments to the town budget?
Mark, I'm not sure about this, what I'm about to say, but if there was a town surplus of, and I'm not sure if it's been verified so much, but somewhere around $300,000, I think did we use 190,000 of that surplus in this budget? Is that what we did?
No, the surplus typically, we need to, it typically rolls into the
General?
the general fund,
Okay.
the fund balance.
Did we?
see.
pull
Eric,
from
am I correct there?
funds?
I thought, okay. Eric, could you clarify that?
We use some
Sure.
fund balance against it. I think Eric will speak. Yeah.
Sure, sorry about that. I didn't realize I was on mute. So essentially the way it works is any monies that are unspent automatically roll into the fund balance. What you do every year is you make a decision on the mill rate calculation page, how much of that fund balance you are going to, if any, are you going to allocate to offset taxation the next year? That's why I sent around the thing about, you as a board ultimately coming up with some kind of policy on how much of a fund balance you want to keep and what things do you want to consider as part of the actual fund balance, which essentially stays as the emergency reserve for the town.
I see.
So we did choose to use 190.
So we choose to use the $190,000.
Yeah.
In there.
Correct.
And I'm just wondering, in trying to get this budget passed, can we increase that at all? Or is dangerous? Is it not confirmed the amount that was actually in surplus or?
We're far enough along in the audit process to know that there was roughly a $200,000 or $400,000 surplus on the town side.
Okay.
That was around 260,000 in surplus revenue, and the rest was under expenditure on the town side.
So 140-ish for under expenditure.
I'm sorry.
Off the top of my head, it's somewhere in that category. I can probably try to look it up real quick.
Okay, no, ballpark is okay for me.
But that gives you.
So could we
sorry,
increase that line, I guess, to help with the mill rate? And
So the unexpended fund balance, if memory serves from way back when, the whole idea is that the state sort of guidance target is 10% of your operating budget per annum. So if you have a $10 million budget, you want $1 million in reserve.
I think it went up though, didn't it, Eric?
Actually, the GFOA says you should maintain 2 full months of operating funds. Which for us, which equates to basically around 17%. But they also say that as a town, you can consider, you should basically, the reason why they think towns should have individual policies on this is some towns have more exposure. Let's say your town was on St. Andreas Fault. You would probably want to have considerably more money than that in the bank. And the same thing if you were a coastal town. So it takes into account the risk, but on average, they're suggesting that 17% number. But in our case, we can take into account some of the money that we have in the permanent funds, because let's be honest, if
They're
we had a real
unencumbered, right? Yeah.
rock solid emergency, you as a board have the ability to pull money from any permanent fund the town has and allocate it towards emergency research. So I think we can operate instead of at 17% unexpended fund balance at a number lower than that. But I don't think I'm the guy that tells you. I think you guys as a board have to decide what number you want going forward.
Do you know the balance, Eric?
Yeah.
Just,
I knew you were going to ask me that. I think the balance is around 1.6 million right now.
I don't know how my calculator, 1.6 million.
Right. Yeah. So, if you think about basically a $13 million budget and multiply that by 17%, right. We're definitely under that threshold. But I think we can consider some of these other factors and probably stay roughly where we are overall. But I also think that's a board decision, not an Eric decision.
Oh, no, for sure.
And again, Eric, for sure, but your knowledge of explaining that was helpful just now, so.
Right. So the 17%, it's like 2.2 million. If you base it off
Yes.
a $13 million budget.
Yes.
So I'm happy to hear that they changed that because I always thought the 10% was too low. So that
Yeah,
makes
but
me-
in theory, they
Yeah.
were almost threatening to penalize you if you get too much beyond that, right?
that was the whole discussion a number of years ago, and that's what I was remembering. You
So
didn't
what
want to
if
put a
we
target on
split
your
the
back if
difference
you're the
and we
one
say-
fat town way out there,
Mhm.
and then get shorted on your ECS funding or something.
Should we wait until we're finished with everything and see where we stand and then decide? Because I remember bringing up this fund balance question,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of our process, because I kind of wanted to lower it for the taxpayers too, but I was voted down at the time. So I think it's great that Bill brought it up again.
Well, before we go on to the education portion, Joanne, I was just hoping that we could, you know.
No, I hear you, but is this something?
But
we
that,
can do
that
at the
that
end?
will affect the amount. If we make a change to the education line, it probably is gonna make a huge difference.
That's
So-
all I meant is, right,
Oh,
where do
I
we
see.
stand when we're done with all of our changes and then see if we want to help the taxpayers even more and add more in? It's just my thought, but I'm, whatever the board wants to do.
Yeah, so just what I'm typing here, just a little working sheet. So the 1.6 million is what Eric estimates the current balance is. If we were to fund it at 17%, we would need to increase the fund balance by about $128,000. Not a problem if we got the surplus we have. So that sounds like that's even with the use of the fund balance to offset taxes at the current rate.
Mhm.
If we were to split the difference maybe between 17% and 12.5%, I didn't do that right. Was that 13.5%?
Mark, are you basing the 17 off of amount raised by taxation or total
No,
expenditure?
no, no. This is
No,
the
the
estimated,
recommended-
the proposed fund balance based on a 2-month, the 17% that the
Yeah.
state. Okay. This is, if we were going to follow that 2 months worth of expenditures in the fund balance, this is what the fund balance should be roughly.
See,
If we
well,
cut that
no,
back to
this is why
13
I'm
point-
asking. It says I came up with 2.2 million, so I'm trying to figure out where I went wrong.
I don't know.
Um,
This is the bottom. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about total expenditure. That's
Two.
13 million, not 10.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric,
Yes.
I just heard that somebody is in the waiting room trying to get into the meeting. Is it too late to let somebody in or no?
Nope, let me do that real quick. Sorry, I was not paying attention to the waiting.
That's okay. Thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
Eric.
Lose that.
Letting them in right now. My
Okay,
bad.
thanks. Not, nope, you're multitasking.
Yeah, good catch, Rob. Yeah, so the 17%, that would make more sense, 2.2 million. And even if we split the difference from 10%, it's 1.7, so it's a little
Right.
higher than we are now.
Right.
So again, just
Yeah.
like Eric said, it's something to consider. What do we as a town want to have in reserve?
Right. Now that it seems like, back then, this discussion would have been different 5 years ago, right? When, or whatever it was, when we were told basically, if you have more than 10%, you put a target on your back, they're going to cut your funding, that kind of thing.
Right.
If that's
Right.
changed, then yeah, we absolutely should think about whether do we want 13, 14, 15, something in there. What this is telling me, this little sort of quick calculations we're doing, what this suggests to me is that whatever changes we might make on using fund balance should be small. That would be my take.
Right.
So currently, if I'm just looking at this on the fly, general, so we're looking at 1.87, but then we're subtracting 190,000 from that by what we're putting into the budget for this year. So, yeah, that's 1.6 something. So somewhere in there.
So we're
So
really
about- we're 13% roughly
yeah.
with the
Yes.
current fund.
But we also have a fair bit of money in, the regular non-major, all the other capital reserve funds. So on any given day, at some times of the year, we've drawn the public works the roadwork fund way down. But we might have money in a bridge and culvert fund, which we could tap in an emergency. It would screw up future planning, but we could do that. So we certainly don't need the 2.2. It's got to be, you guys have to at some point have a discussion and set a policy on what you want to maintain. And then you can figure out how much to put back in each year.
So I guess we go back to what you said earlier, Joanne. We got to see what happens on the education side. Then we look at the whole number, and then we can make a decision on what percentage we want to keep there. Makes
I
more
like
sense.
that idea too, Bill.
Yeah. I didn't quite understand what you were saying at first, but now I do. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just quickly before we move on? So far, the net of the changes we've made between adding back in education cost share money, between fixing $29,000, almost $30,000 fix. So that's about 120 in the positive, and then we tapped back on 30,000 in expenditure, correct? The 25 and the 5,000 stipend.
Right.
Am I missing anything?
I think that's all we've done.
Right now, we're netting out to a 90,000-ish savings. I'm back from the napkin.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so everybody's kind of got that in their heads, we go on.
Yep.
Right, because we added, how much did we add back in tonight, Rob? Sorry, thank you.
We added
I
in
think it
90,
was-
we added in 120, say, right?
Just shy of 120, because the 29,000 and 29.5 that you identified as an error in the health
Right.
care spending, and then 89,000
89.
and change in ECS
money.
Got
funding.
it.
So it's probably like 119.
But then we put 25 from the road fund back in
Right,
and restored
right.
5,000 of the assistant finance.
Perfect. And Mark, while we're talking about that, we did clear that explanation for the stipend, right? Under the assistant finance director. There's no language in the spreadsheet. While we're finishing up this.
Yeah, let me take a look.
Yeah, we should clear that out. That was the whole reason. It's against union. The anticipation is that there'll be an MOU signed and blah, 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 but
So
I guess if you go all the way over to
you're just talking about the comment
the comment, thank you.
here, this one. Okay, yeah. Well, that doesn't really get published for the budget, but yeah, we can take that out.
Please do. That was my whole reason for taking it out.
Yep.
Or for minusing it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else relative to the town budget we want to talk about or revenue?
So I just want to give you more exact numbers because I pulled up. So last year, the revenue was $226,700 more than anticipated. The majority of which came from two things. One, the state gave us one of their surplus fund thingies that they do occasionally when the state has enough of a revenue surplus at the end of the year. And the biggest contributor was us getting the STIF account, which netted the town around $140,000. So, and the rest was honestly due to Kate or the tax collector doing a much better job going after tax scofflaws. On the expenditure side, we underexpended the budget, including contingency, by $180,000. So those were the two numbers you have to work for.
I think we had taken into account the STIF revenue when we set that.
Yep.
We did this year, certainly. Yes.
So the current year, the prior year taxes, we had a very successful year. We actually budgeted more based on the last 12-month thing. So we did take that into account also.
Correct.
And one thing I think we have to realize that we can't necessarily expect an amazing performance every year, because as you whittle away the back taxes, there's just less and less that's likely to be able to collect it.
Right.
So, but
So
I
do you think
it's
that's
reasonable
realistic?
what we did.
I was gonna say, you think that's a realistic number then?
Eric, you think there's still that amount of back taxes to be collected?
Yeah, I think there is. I think that is realistic. The only thing that's making me a little nervous is that because we are going ahead with tax foreclosure sales this year, there's a possibility that we're going to be way over on tax collection in the current fiscal year, because she's already got, you know, almost 150,000 in back taxes, more than kind of, so we're already running ahead on this current year, that somewhere along the line that is going to run out.
Sure.
But I think we're probably okay for next year.
Because of
Okay.
foreclosure sales, Eric?
Correct.
Oh, thanks.
Yep. That's Board of Selectmen
you.
decision. Yep.
What do you mean? Can you explain that? I guess I'm,
Sure. So there's,
or is that
depending
not?
on what type of taxation it is, there's three main things: motor vehicle, personal property, and then real estate. Personal property, it's really hard to go back and collect taxes that don't get paid because you don't have a lot of teeth to go after them, other than sicking the state marshals and try to confiscate their bank accounts, which we do also. Real estate, pretty much, you know, you have more teeth because you can lien the property. When a property gets too far in debt, or it's been too many years, then in this case, this year, the town board of selectmen, on the recommendation from the tax collector, sent ones that were, you know, had been unpaid for a number of years and a big enough amount to make it worth it to tax foreclosure. So that process is going on right now.
Okay, tax foreclosure. Okay, I didn't hear that part. I was thinking home foreclosures, but you're basically taking legal action on the delayed payment of taxes.
Delinquent taxes, yeah.
Delinquent, right. Delinquent, that's the word.
Essentially what happens is, if you have a property that goes into tax foreclosure, there is an auction. The highest bidder basically pays the amount, the worth of the property, and the tax, the amount of unpaid taxes goes to the town. And then the homeowner then has some period of time to either refinance or in some way pay that individual back. So they can prevent that property from actually getting taken from them, but they have to make a positive action to do it.
Gotcha. Okay, yep. Thank you.
Yep.
And sorry to flip back and forth. I was just validating some of the changes to net. So.
Can we make a motion to move on to the education portion of the budget, or?
Yeah, I mean, and that doesn't mean we can't come back to the town budget too. I mean, there isn't a, you know, we can't, it's not like a
Sure.
structured thing where the agenda
Right.
is going to change. So,
No,
so I kept it kind of open.
it seems like it's kind of quieted down on this side. So.
Yeah. Okay, so the RAM education line obviously that's set by the referendum.
Yeah.
So can't alter that. But here we have the AES Board of Education line. So the proposed budget number was given to us was $4,729,155.20. So about $381,000 change roughly, or an 8.8% increase. And obviously, we've heard a lot about the budget. We know that that's the main point of contention in the vote.
I'd like to make a motion.
Was that Liz?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead, Liz.
I'd like to make a motion to cut the increase. So instead of increasing 8.8%, to cut it to 3.3%, to 3%.
Can you
think,
restate that?
I'd like to make a motion to increase the Board of Ed's budget 3% instead of the original 8.8.
Okay,
I'll second that, Liz.
that was Louise. Oh, I'm sorry,
Kim.
Kim.
Correct.
So I'm just going to do a little cut and paste here so that I can verify my calculation. Whoops, that didn't work.
So that would be, oh, I don't have that calculation.
Yep, okay.
I was actually going to
No, I have
consider
it.
cutting.
So what you would be doing is you're proposing that the AES Board of Education line item would be set at $4,478,000. Rounded up to 500 if you want,
Yeah.
499.74.
Yep.
So that is 3% over the current year's budget, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so if you'll see if I copy this and I paste it into the spreadsheet, you see the percent change is 3% here in column N.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we obviously understand the surplus, and I know there's lots of reasons for it, but the surplus still lives in our current budget. And I don't think this decrease would prevent them from, I don't think they would be neglecting their contractual liabilities. That's my motion.
Okay.
We can talk
Kim
about it.
seconded, yeah. Any further discussion?
This strikes me as the kind of drastic cut I'd like to avoid. I was waiting I figured we'd take a whack at that and lower the increase somewhat, but from 8.8 to 3 is a huge swing, and I'm not in favor. I think it's too much, too deep, especially given that, the referendum results were not that lopsided to suggest that we have to go that hard. So, I have a thought in mind for my own proposal, but I'll leave it there for now. I don't support this one.
I would,
Bill?
I go along with Rob. I know we do have to cut Liz here. That was made pretty clear, but I think that's to be a little too drastic, knowing that there are some state mandates where we have to hire new teachers and paras and, software and equipment for kids that are coming in. It's growing every year. So I'm with Rob. I know we have to do something here.
Let him finish talking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm with Rob. I know we have to do something. I just think that's a little harsh. And I don't know. I don't have a number off the top of my head right now, so I'll let other people talk and then see if somebody else comes up with another number, if this makes it or doesn't make it, whatever.
Okay. Just so I can go down. Kim, did you want to add anything?
I think that, leaving it with what Liz suggested is it's still going to allow the hiring of new teachers, paras, and things will, just go on status quo at the school. I don't think it'll hurt the children, the families, or anything. I think the taxpayers spoke. I think it's a fair change to make right now.
Yep. So
Okay,
my point is,
Louise,
Louise.
I'd just like to hear from everybody, then we'll come back if we could. So, yeah, I think it's just everyone's got an opinion, I think, on most of these. So I just like to make sure.
Yep, go ahead.
Louise,
Yep.
did you have a comment?
Yeah, I agree with both Kim and Liz. I think we need to do something here, and the town has spoken. And I do feel that the school can deal with that at this point with the extra money, and that's it. I agree with that.
And Joanne?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad we can finally comment on this in public, and there's been a lot of conjecture and probably my first time speaking out loud about it. I think from the beginning, we all thought it was a big ask. I think we've all, had our opinions that we've never seen such a big ask before. We listened to everything. I'm more of a dollar amount person, so I would rather see, like, and I'll shut my thing down and figure out the calculations of, I believe I have a brochure that said that the first increase, and I hope I can find my page, was, is it 381,097? And that was what they were asking for with their 8.8% increase.
Yes.
So
Just a second,
381,096.
Oh, okay. Maybe I rounded up. Thank you, Liz.
That's
So
okay.
if we
Round
are
is fine.
looking, can we know what the 3%,
How much would the
obviously it's
3% be?
less than half, right? So what would the increase be from
It's
last?
right there.
It's right
The
there.
dollar change is 3%.
Thank
It's
you.
130,441.
All right, so that's a 3%.
Thank you.
Myself, I'm going to be torn on this. I'm going to be thinking about it through and through. I know that this year the board has, shown the propensity of trying to, I've been on the Board of Finance. Others have just joined it. I've been on the Board of Finance for 4 years. So I know that it's always been a difficult decision or conversation every year. We know there's been surpluses and things. This was the first year that I thought we made inroads with working with the Board of Ed as far as, creating the capital fund account, knowing there's a lot of work that's going to be done there. I also was a big fan of, if there was going to be a surplus, let's figure out a way that it can go back into the school and be productive, which I think happened this year. I'm not saying there wasn't a big surplus in that, the figures have shown that. And the people have spoken, so we have to make a cut. I just have to do some fast math that I'm very famous for to see what I would be comfortable with cutting, because my intention was always going to be to suggest a cut, as far as to that budget. That hadn't changed. That, was a big ask, like I'm saying publicly right now. And we've got to listen to the people. I just want to make sure that they've showed a lot of propensity to work with the whole town together. We're trying to come together with getting a lot of the capital projects done. So I just want to feel comfortable with the overall cut and then move forward. And we also have, as a Board of Finance, sent emails that we wanted to have a little bit more financial information, and hopefully that can be worked on in the future as well. So I know you're going to call for a vote quickly, but I need a few minutes to do a little bit of mental math for myself. But thank you. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Liz, did you want
Yeah,
to
while
comment
you're
further?
doing your mental math, I just wanted to say, so the school is not in a position where there's mandatory hirings needed. I think the school has a policy that once the classes reach 30, I don't know if that's a state law or not, that they would want to increase. And I totally get that. I wouldn't support having classrooms of 30 children. But they're not anywhere near a mandate where they need to hire. They want to add a teacher for the large 4th grade class, which is absolutely makes sense because there's I think there's 36 kids. And then there's a class of 28 and a class of 27. So it's not to the point of a mandate. And then, but coming up behind those classes, there's classes of 22 and 23 and I think 21. And when the discussion happens about this growth of the school, the growth in the school is mostly due to the preschool. And we need to talk about that. And McGuire even suggested that we need to talk about this because they are now have opened this up to non-Andover students. And that is where the growth is coming in our school. And that shouldn't scare us into thinking that we should, you know, consider a bigger increase than maybe necessary. The fact is that surplus that was in the budget still lives in this budget. It doesn't go away. So if you look at what was expended last year compared to this year or next year, I had these notes written down and I don't know what I did with them. Oh wait, here they are. Bottom line is that increase or that surplus is still lived. It will compound year over year. That increase will stay in the budget as long as the budget continues to get built on current budgeted amounts versus considering the expended amount. So I'm hoping we can do it for 3% because, you know, it is what it is. Everybody will have a say. And, you know, obviously we all have to come in, you know, to some sort of an agreement, but I just wanted to clear up some, you know, some narratives that we're looking at a position where positions are going to be mandated. Does not appear to be based on the information that I received from AES. And this 3% would allow them to hire the teachers that they would need, considering the fact that that surplus still lives in the budget. That's my take.
Okay. Anybody else want to add anything?
I just want to add, Mark, if you
Kim, go ahead. Yep.
I just wanted to just say that, you know, I'm a newer Board of Finance member, but this decision, it's not easy to make. You probably couldn't find anybody who cares more about kids and education. This is just it's a very complex decision, combing through a budget, looking at information that you're given and working with that information to make a decision based on the entire town and the population. So for me, it was hard. It's hard. I love kids. I completely respect the education process at Andover Elementary School. They're wonderful teachers, and it's not easy, but I do think that this is fair.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to say something.
Louise?
Yeah, I appreciate all the work that Liz has done into this. She's gone through a lot of different venues as far as figuring out, getting all this information, and it's come out. And I think it's time that we do something about it.
Just wanted to call it that Mr. Maker, I forget his name, but he's on the board of Ed. He just put up a note and said something to the effect that the 3% mandatory increases for those teachers, I think it said it wouldn't cover the 3%, wouldn't cover those increases. So again, I'm just want to make sure everybody caught that note that he.
They renegotiated the teacher contract. So
yeah, the teacher contract has that increase.
Yeah. So he said the 3% will not allow for any staff to be hired. So that's
because you basically eat that with the salary increases that have been negotiated.
Right. So I still hold my position. I think the 3% is too much of a cut, and we're not going to be able to hire the teacher for the class of 36 people. So I hear you, Liz. I hear everybody else on the phone. I just think that's a little too steep to still be able to hire a teacher that's needed and support the salary increases that are mandated. So that's my final thought on that.
Just really quick, could I just add one more thought? You know, as regards surpluses that AES has managed to bring in over the last couple of budget cycles, I'd be careful. I mean, I always think it's difficult to count on grant money, and I think this year in particular is a very dubious time to be counting on grant money. We've had a good track record, but there are reasons, and I'm not going to elaborate. I don't want to start a fight, but there are reasons to think, is our grant money coming? So I'd be more cautious than I otherwise might be on that issue, with looking at last year's surplus and saying, oh, that could happen again. There's slack in this budget. So
Right.
that's one of the reasons I'm opposed.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, or can we?
Mark, can I just?
Go ahead,
I know
Joanne.
we're going to be voting on this motion, but I mean, we're all taking a deep dive and really coming within ourselves, because we know the people have spoken. We know that the Board of Ed budget has been, you know, a source of contention year after year, you know, with everything that's happened. So is it proper for me to, and we knew we would probably come to this point if the budget didn't pass, but I would love to know Rob's idea, just to throw it out there. I know we can't vote on it, but he said he had an idea. I wanted to know, because I know he's fully ingrained in what would his compromise situation be, or what was his thoughts? Are we allowed, because we're going to be doing big votes on all of this.
So you're seeing what kind of discount
What
or
was
what
he
kind of
thinking?
reduction
Right,
would he?
It's hardly rocket science. I was going to say that, you know, 6% is a rough midpoint. Instead of the 3%, 6% increase. So instead of 8.8 or 3, kind of in between the two. That's still, you know, I think it's about $120,000 cut from what they asked. That's not insignificant. And at the same time, I don't think it's crippling. So, you know, and I have to admit, you know, we're just going on their overall budget here. The BOE would have to then sort out how they'd handle that cut.
Right.
Again, I think the election results were in context, do not suggest that we need to make such a big cut. And so I would propose a midpoint kind of deal like that if this motion fails.
I appreciate you speaking to that. I know I'm a little concerned. I definitely know that we have to cut tonight. I mean, the people have spoken and that was loud and clear. I just want to make sure that we make a fair cut this year. I think we made inroads. I'm not sure what that fair cut is, so I wanted to hear what Rob was saying. You know, a lot has been brought up, but I also feel like our relationship with them has brought a lot of inroads. So I think we should follow through with and pursue for everyone that has a lot of questions on the financial reporting, and, you know, maybe ask for a little more information, find out where other cuts can be made or whatever. So yeah, I'm on the fence with this too, as far as thinking, you know, going from an 8.8 down to a 3% is just too much at this time. You know,
Would
but
you feel
opening
better?
opening
Would
the
you feel
title
better?
line.
Would you feel better cutting that 8.5 in half
That's,
to
I
a
was
4
more going that way,
to a
Liz. I appreciate-
4.5%?
I know that this has to be done. And so I appreciate the honest and open, and finally we're allowed to talk about it, you know, what we would do or what we would think, so that people will know that. So yeah, I didn't want to go as deep as 3. I understand that there's been a lot of things brought up, a lot of literature and a lot of things, but I want to work together and, you know, come to a fair point. So.
Liz, can we maybe just round it out at 5? That's your 4.4 and Rob's 6%. Maybe we go at 5 and call it a day, something like that.
Well, it's just a point of order.
Yes, we gotta. I know we gotta
Right.
vote on this.
We have to
motion.
vote on this motion. So
Yeah,
I haven't said it
discussions.
yet, but I if I could comment. So one thing I want to point out is that if we were to leave this decrease in place, and I have to verify and make sure I don't leave any weird rogue numbers around, but we're actually reducing the amount to be raised by taxes at a time when we all know inflation is 3 to 5%.
Exactly.
Wait, what exactly are you saying, Mark? I'm so sorry. I'm not following that.
Right now,
if
when
the
we
motion
take a look
passes.
at this, we're actually reducing the amount to be raised by taxes versus last year.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's
And
not a
not where
bad
we have
thing.
inflation, Joanne, we have
But-
mandatory
Wait,
increases in
the amount,
salaries.
oh, wait.
What are
the-
you talking
Right.
about?
Hey, guys,
Sorry,
I
I'm
had the
trying
floor,
to-
okay? I had the floor, so let me, if I could
Yes,
just
of
tell you,
course.
talk about
Please.
what my view would be.
Yeah.
So I think 3% increase is a pretty deep, you know, it's 3%, it's an increase, right? But it does, you know, it does take us into a tax reduction. Now, part of that is driven, you know, maybe by the fund balance. So we have to recognize that we're using some of the fund balance, but I think we also recognize that we're probably okay doing that. Personally, I wouldn't, you know, I think I'd like to see a little more than a 3% increase. So cut from the original budget would be less. You know, and if we remain flat, it's hard to see how people would argue with that. If we did not increase taxes for the town of Andover, it's hard to see how that would be problematic. Eric, you have your hand up. Do you want to add something?
So obviously I don't have a vote in this, but the hardest thing I think in your jobs right now is balancing a budget that will get through a town meeting and then we'll get through a referendum. And I can say if you propose that big a cut to AES, you'll get the parents all out to the budget meeting. And it will get sent back to you and you'll be here this week, because that's what happened the last time we did this. That's just an observation from what happened in the past. I can't tell you what the truly correct number is or should be. Education budget's not my forte anyway. But I think if you went with a 3% budget, you would have a very hard time getting that through the next public meeting. You know,
Yeah,
that's all I got.
And I read the charter and I thought the charter said the next time we go together to present it to the town, it is just presented and no changes are made.
No, it's the same process. People get to vote on it.
But did we vote the last time? I thought that they changed the charter, that there is a meeting, they're allowed to make changes, but only go lower. And then it just swoops over to the referendum. I thought that was our new charter. Because I thought we took away voting on it at the end, but I could be incorrect.
I don't think that's the way, it's not the most clear language in the world. But what it says is that, you know, if the referendum, if the budget is defeated at first referendum or for a second time at town meeting, the budget would be bifurcated into separate votes on the town budget and on the local Board of Education budget individually. And the process shall begin again with the Board of Finance as set forth in section 803C, which is what talks about the passing the budget at the town meeting. Above and shall continue until each bifurcated budget is passed. So that's the town meeting.
Oh, so we're on to a new, because we definitely didn't vote last
Same
time.
process, just bifurcated. And the Board of Finance shall review any rejected budget and present for review and discussion only the same or revised budget to a subsequent town meeting held exactly 1 week after the day of the referendum at which it was rejected, and then next referendum will be held exactly 2 weeks later. If only one of the two bifurcated budgets is passed at referendum, it is final and may be implemented for the new fiscal year, but this process must continue for any failed budget until it is passed.
Okay,
So I think it's the
read that.
same process, but if we go to town meeting and we pass the town budget, that's done. That'll go to referendum, but we still need to go have another town meeting to pass the education budget. If it were to fail at town meeting. And I think Eric is right. We need to consider the ability to pass this from both sides. And the you know, and just a reminder, if it comes in high, people can always reduce it at town meeting. Didn't happen last time, but it can happen. That is the motion that can be made. Cannot be increased. It can only be reduced. Joanne, you got your hand up? Did you?
Oh, no, I'm not trying to. Is my hand up?
Liz
Sorry.
does.
I'm
Jeff
trying to
McGuire has his hand up. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd
if-
like to understand it just because everything's so new. Thank you.
Jeff, go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
As far as the charter change goes, it's the exact same process. It's true that it's bifurcated, but you still go to a town meeting. The town meeting only has a vote to pass it to referendum. They don't have they're not voting on the budget. They can vote on decreasing the budget, as Mark said. But if there's no reductions to the budget, or whatever is reduced is what will go to referendum. It goes to referendum at that point in the time. We do need to, you don't vote on it like we used to vote on it. We
Right.
used to vote on it where we would vote it up or down, and, right from town meeting, it would be pushed back to the Board of Finance, but that's not what the new process is. The new process is it goes to a town meeting. It can be reduced, but then it moves to referendum for the vote to determine if it comes back to the Board of Finance again. That is the new process. That is what
Thank you.
happened.
That's the way I understood it, Jeff. Thanks for clarification.
Thank you, Jeff.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Louise.
Looks like Eric Becker said something about contractual obligations and benefits are 100,000.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I'm thinking if that's true, what would the lowest percentage we could actually allow to,
Yeah, that's lower than we were trying.
I know,
Yeah.
to have that actually go through? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's just
But this
giving
is-
us feedback,
He's just-
Louise,
yeah.
Right.
the factor. He's
This
just
is
giving us
Board of Finance
feedback.
meeting,
He's throwing
not-
different numbers into us to take into consideration.
Right. Right.
and this
I just
is
want to make
the
sure
Board of
that-
Finance meeting.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're allowing them to do what they need to do,
Right.
without
Well-
causing problems at this point, but that just struck me funny, that's all.
No, thanks,
Any
Louise.
other comments?
Mark, I just want to be clear. So yours, and I agree that, and I'm going to stick to it, that I think maybe cutting right now down to the 3% is too much. But you're saying that if we did that, we'd be lowering the total tax collected. That's what, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll
Yeah.
validate this calculation, but it looks like the total taxes will go down about $139,000.
What if we did like Liz had suggested, well, I don't know how you're doing all these calculations. I usually have to do it later. Should we factor in does anyone else want to factor in one of the other suggestions, like the 5% or the 4.4?
You want to know what 5% would be? Is that what
Well, I
you're
guess
saying?
that was one of the figures. Is that going to affect the taxes collected?
Mark, if you want, I have a spreadsheet that shows 3 through 8%.
You just did, Eric?
Yeah. If you
So
wanna-
there's 5%. It would be about a $217,000 increase. The mill rate, it would still be a reduction in the overall taxes, again, because we're using a more fund balance this year, of about 52,000, so.
Now, with that fund balance, you mean because we added in the extra 40 that we should have, we were making up for last year. Gotcha.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, no, because I'm trying to wrap my head around what you're saying here and just see how significant it is. And I will get there, I understand. It's a whole new angle that I usually don't use.
So I'd like to call for a vote on the motion that's on the floor
Yeah.
if we could, if nobody has any disagreements. So the motion on the floor is to set the AES Board of Ed line item at $4,478,499.74. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, that looked like Liz and
Kim.
Kim
And Louise,
and Louise, okay. And all those opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Yay.
Okay.
Okay, so I have Joanne, myself, Rob, and Bill. That sound right?
Yes.
Okay, the motion does not pass. Okay, we can entertain another motion.
I'd make a motion that we decrease the 8.8% down to a 5% increase this year for the AES budget.
So you're proposing that
With the number that you put up there for 5%.
you're making a motion that we set the AES budget at $4,565,000. And
Yep.
460,
call it
90.
460,
we'll call
90,
it
yep.
461, yeah.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, Joanne seconds. We've had a lot of discussion already.
I
Just
know.
for,
It gives-
just
it's buying
for-
time.
just
It's
for
buying
review,
time,
we
Mark.
can take a look and see what that does. And again, that looks like it takes us to about a lower amount by taxation by about $52,000.
Right, because that's you had already made that calculation
Right.
during discussion, right?
Yeah, so no
Yeah.
change. What that does for our mill rate, it still increases the mill rate, but again, that's because of the change to the way that the vehicles are appraised. It doesn't actually change the taxation. So with this budget, the taxation actually continues to go down.
Can we go all the way down to the bottom line, like increasing just keep going a little bit so we can all see?
That is everything right there.
That's it.
Right, but I'm just getting to the bottom, like I know you did. But isn't there a total of expenses at the bottom, even lower, Mark?
That's on the main budget.
Oh, sorry, that's it? That ends right there? I thought it did a
No,
little.
that's the mill rate.
That's
page.
the mill
So-
rate. This is the main.
Right, but I
So
thought
for
there
the
still
town
was a
operating budget, the percent increase is 4.1%.
The mill rate increase is 4.1.
No.
No,
No, no, no,
Everything's
no, no.
going so fast. We're all over the place
no,
here.
no, no, no. That's expenditure, but we also have
Oh,
revenue.
I made
increase.
my page too big. That's why. I apologize. That's why I wasn't seeing it. I was able to, my bad. Let me shut off my camera. Give me a moment to take this all in.
While Joanne's doing that, can I just chip in my 2 cents real quick?
Yeah. go ahead.
I still personally think this is a little much, but as you all know, my proposal would have been a little higher, 6%. I understand we're trying to find a compromise. We're trying to feel our way to getting to a compromise. I'll just point out again, of the money so far, our net result tonight, we're in a positive 90,000, and that's ECS money. So, I love the idea of bringing the town a flat budget, flat by taxation, flat mill rate. But this actually goes past that. I think if we did mine, I think would probably be almost exactly at 0. So that's my take.
If I could speak, I think this is a nice compromise. I think it's more than half. We're not cutting it in half. I like that Bill proposed the 5%. We heard earlier tonight by some of the Board of Ed people saying that they had heard different towns had passed a 5% increase, which is generally more than any town. I work for a Board of Ed. You usually don't hear of these numbers. But if this is indeed the year that they do need to support, new staff and, sorry, I thought my camera was on, more staff and different changes that they have outlined, I think this budget could be passable. I think if we go any higher, it's not going to be passable. And Mark, you brought up the points of why it might not be a good idea, to go too low. I'm thinking that senior citizens will be happy with this kind of budget. Like you said, it's a tiny increase in the mill rate.
It's actually a reduction.
It's actually a reduction.
Why am
mean,
I
the-
looking at 31.46 and 31.59?
Well, remember the mill rate's calculated based on the grand list, and the grand list went down because they lowered the value of vehicles.
It was the change the way they shifted some
Just a
taxation.
calculation, right? So the
Right, but is
tax-
that the
vehicle
mill
taxes
rate
to-
that we're going to be taxing people on?
Yes.
Is that the mill rate
But
that
the-
we're taxing people
But the
on? this
mill rate
year?
is only one component, right? The valuation is the other component.
Right.
And if
Right.
the valuation changes, your actual tax bill. What we're trying to show here is that your actual tax bill would drop.
Will go down. Joanne.
Right.
Even though the mill rate's higher.
Is
On
slightly
average,
high, teeny tiny
But I
higher.
think we're gonna have win-win. We've done, we've shown that there's been surpluses all around. We're doing good things with the surpluses. We found avenues for that to go. We've put, there's still increases in expenses. Everything that I motioned to cut wasn't cut. So we're not, and we've added money back in tonight. We would be cutting the Board of Ed. I understand that, but from the get-go, the Board of Ed has been a contentious point where people were asking us to cut that all along. That's all we heard. So I feel like we're at least not cutting it more than the 50%. So that's my take. I don't know. I understand you're all concerned in different ways.
If I could, let me go down and make sure everybody. So Rob, I think you spoke to this. Bill, you have any comments?
I'm all set.
Okay. Kim?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, Louise?
I'd like to see more of a half. For me, I feel that's a good compromise. So that would be what, 4.4% increase?
Well, again, keep in mind, it can always be reduced at the time,
Right. I'd be more inclined to vote on something like that. To me, 5 is a little bit too high.
Okay. Liz, do you have anything more to add?
Yeah, I mean, for me, 5 is high, but I certainly don't want to go higher. And I understand that we all have to come to a compromise. So I get that. I appreciate the discussion.
Yeah. I would actually put myself in that camp also. But I mean, we're already at a tax reduction, so to me, maybe I'd put back that Town Aid Road money, or not Town Aid Road, but
we're
road.
doing the job we set out to do. We're supposed to have these discussions.
Yeah.
And
well, the
then
thing
money
that's
where it
really driving the improved situation, we're still seeing a significant increase on both the town and the school side of the expenditures. So we got to keep that in mind.
That's
what
what
we're
I keep
seeing is that
saying.
we had an improvement in revenue. So we don't know if that's always going to be the case. So, I'm not inclined to, I think we're fortunate because we've had this revenue increase. The educational cost sharing might get taken out again next year. We may not see the collections as quite as strong on the overdue taxes. There's a lot of things that could happen. So, I think we're just fortunate this year if we could do this.
Yeah. Call a question or?
Yeah, I mean, I've said my piece. You all know where I stand. So
take a
if
vote.
anybody else?
Yeah, I'm gonna go down again, just roll call because it's too complicated and confusing trying to do that.
And this
Joanne?
is the 5% proposal, correct?
5% increase.
Yeah, so just to clarify, what we have before us is a motion to set the AES Board of Ed budget at whoops, sorry.
Wrong screen.
I clicked off the I have two spreadsheets and the charter open and everything else to set the AES budget at $4,565,461. That's an increase of $217,400 roughly, and about a 5% increase over the current year budget. So, Joanne? What's your
Aye.
vote? Okay.
Based
Bill?
on, I don't think we could pass a higher
Okay.
amount than that. That would not pass higher.
Questions over.
Bill?
Okay. Aye, yes.
Yes, also? Okay, Liz?
Aye.
Louise?
I'm on the fence, but I'll say aye.
Okay. Kim?
I'm on the fence too, but I'll say aye.
Okay. Rob?
I'll stick to my guns and say nay.
Okay. And I will say aye, even though I would not mind seeing it a little lower. Okay, motion passes. The AES budget is set at that amount. Okay, do we have any other proposed changes to the budget?
I think it's a good budget. Let's take it to the town.
Mark, when we're done this evening, will you be sharing that with all of us?
Yeah, I probably need to clean it up and just
Yeah.
make sure.
Yeah,
you know,
once you're,
The
thank
mill
you for
rate
taking the time
thing
to do
and,
that,
yeah.
right?
Make
So
sure
we
that's
are
all
looking-
propagated properly.
We're looking at a mill rate of a proposed mill rate of 31.59.
All right.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, the mill rate will be set, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then down, the total raised by taxation is there it is, negative 0.5%.
Negative 0.5%.
About 50,000 reduced.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, functionally it's zero. Yeah.
Bill, should we throw any more money? I'm kidding. From
No,
the fund
don't.
balance? Now you understand the fund balance.
Not after you paid that cut. Come on.
Let's just call it a good night. Let's.
Yeah.
I'm just cheesing. Such a pain.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Well, wait, can we
Is there another round of public speak usually, or I can't remember?
Not on the agenda.
No.
Okay, that's only for that one meeting, I guess.
Well, to me, I think the real public comment's going to come during the town budget meeting, but
that's true.
Mhm. It wasn't on the agenda. I just wanted to ask Eric, what's our next process? It all came so fast with the referendum yesterday. I think it was said earlier that we have another town meeting next Tuesday. Am I right on that?
That is correct. The
Thank you.
next town meeting will be Tuesday at 7 PM in the AES gymnasium.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Can I make a question? Can I
Yeah,
make,
go ahead, Louise.
I'm just curious, as far as the actual town meeting, is it, I'm not sure if it's legal or whatever, are children supposed to be there at the meeting? Or I know some people who were distracted by the kids at the last meeting.
How are you gonna have parents come to a meeting, a public meeting, if they gotta get shot? I mean, you gotta be kidding.
Yeah, I don't think you restrict it.
Excuse
I
me,
don't
as a
think-
parent of young children, are you
No.
kidding me right now?
What?
Yes, they're allowed to be there.
They
Yeah,
are.
I think it's
Yes.
Is
up
they-
to the.
Can they be restrained? Not restrained.
Well, I think it's up to the moderator
To have order.
to manage the meeting in terms of the activity. So
And-
people who are speaking out of turn, people are making too much noise, he has the ability to address those concerns.
Yeah.
And that would be the appropriate thing, I think.
If if he or she is not doing that, can someone make a notion, but can they speak up at the meeting and say, it is being distracting?
Yeah, I would say you probably want to
Okay.
pass a note to him first and then
I'm
see.
just letting you know that some people talked to me about it and they said that was very distracting for them. It was
Yeah,
hard.
I think it's probably something that could be mentioned to the moderator kind of off to the side, and then he could be made aware of it just in case.
Well, hopefully parents would, not police, but
Yeah, I didn't think
you
it was
know.
too bad actually, but
yeah, if the children are acting up, they can just take them outside or in the hallway, kind of like in church as well, something like that. So, yeah.
I thought they were awfully well behaved. I don't know what people are
Yeah,
talking
I didn't remember.
did
But I mean,
too.
it's
Well,
a
we
fair
weren't sitting next to him,
question.
but anyway, I think
That's
let's-
true.
Let's focus on the budget if we could. Does anybody have anything else to add?
That is part of the budget.
Yeah, it's part of the
Gotta
process.
be able
I
to
get
hear
it.
what's going
I
on.
get it. Yeah,
Okay.
it's something we don't really control, so.
So basically, when we go to the town meeting, it will be a presentation to present the budget, to show people the budget. People could make a motion to cut further,
Correct.
and then that goes to the referendum.
It would be voted on right then
Oh,
and there.
right then.
And then whether that passes, Liz, then it would go to the actual town vote.
Right, okay,
Well,
so it doesn't,
Yeah,
I'm just
we'll review it
reiterating
and
it.
just make sure that we
Yeah.
have a full
Back
understanding.
to the
but-
town hall.
There's no more back and forth
Yeah.
back here. Whatever it ends up with that day goes to referendum. Got it.
Yes.
And furthering
Okay,
her,
we'll cross our fingers.
Okay. Yeah.
furthering her question, because it's bifurcated, there's two different votes? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Thank you.
And I'll update the presentation to try to make that as clear as possible. So,
Be
you know,
great.
we'll present one, you know, one group and then the other group, and, you know, well, we'll talk about them and we'll talk about the total, but I think then the vote would be, you know, it would be clear that, okay, we're going to vote on this one. This is the number we're proposing.
But it'd be important, I think, too, Mark, to show not only both separate, but combine what it means for the town overall.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to know that, right? They got to know what the impact is.
Yeah. Okay.
I think this is the first time this has actually happened, right? Since that.
Yeah, this is a new, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
Louise, did
Yeah.
you have something?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
And final question for Eric. I'm sorry, I know we want to close. So we'll have the town meeting and then the next referendum. Is there a certain amount of days we have it after that second town meeting?
I believe the next referendum is May 27th,
Yeah.
which is the day after Memorial Day weekend. And then it failed on the 7th. It would be June 3 would be the next budget meeting, and the next referendum would be the 17th. So we basically have two more failures, or one failure and a pass, before the Board of Finance has to set an actual mill rate without an approved budget. So that's basically what you're working with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have another question. At the referendum, if you're not able to make it, do they have absentee votes?
Not at the referendum, but at the actual vote, you would, I believe.
Well,
But
That's
the vote is the referendum.
That is the referendum.
Yeah. So if you know you're not going to be there, can you get an absentee vote?
I believe so, but I am not the registrar, so I don't know. I don't want to give you a definitive answer on that. That would be a Linda Derrick or Wally Barton question.
Hey, it's Linda.
Oh,
I just
you
figured out how
there?
to unmute. Hello. Yes, there are absentee ballots.
Nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rhonda. Okay, do we have further discussion, or does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Louise, do you want to second that?
I'll second.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions?
Good job,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, I think
Thank you.
I appreciate the
Thank
work.
you.
It's a
Let's hope.
complicated thing. And it's fraught in many ways. So appreciate your participation and your efforts. And we'll see you next week and see what happens.